Hi, everyone. My name is Bernadette Desir. I'm your host, and joining me today for the second time, returning champion, Rodney Lawson. How are you?
Thank you. I'm great. I am great.
Yeah, that's awesome. Welcome back.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be back. Thanks for inviting me back
You're
because there's so
welcome.
much more to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. So, for those who haven't seen the episode with you, the first one I did, can you quickly tell us who you are and what you do?
Yes, I'm Rodney Lawson, and I am the founder and um, owner of Rodney Lawson LLC. It is a consulting company where I work with executives, I work with individuals on helping them become better leaders with their team, their followers, increasing their productivity, helping them reduce their attrition, etc. Um, and then I have an up and coming TEDx speech that I'm speaking about as well. I thought I'd throw that in there, but
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
that's just what I do in a nutshell.
that's awesome. Where about are you tuning in from?
I am joining you from Houston, Texas,
Mhm.
and I love it here.
That's awesome. Is it hot there?
It is. We are still experiencing high 80, low 90-degree weather
Wow.
here in September. So,
Oh,
yeah.
wow. Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. Well, stay cool.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Tell us more about your TEDx talk that's coming up.
Yes. So here's an interesting story. Let me start with this, Bernadette, if you don't mind.
Mhm.
I have been trying to get on a TEDx stage since 2008.
Wow.
Very long time, yes. And I kept applying and kept applying and kept applying. It's always been a goal of mine to share my ideas and my thoughts on a TEDx stage where people can see, what I have to say. And thankfully, this year, with the grace of God, I had the opportunity to get a lot of clarity in just what I'm doing. There were three things that kind of came together: the therapist that I was seeing, the pastor of this church that I had recently joined, and this membership group that I'm a part of, where they help you find your purpose. Those three things helped me to gain clarity, help put me a part of a community, and then help me obtain consistency. And so those three things are the three things that you need if you want to be successful. You have to have clarity, you have to have community, and you have to have consistency. And in the past, consistency was always tough because I didn't have the community, right? I didn't have people that were 3 to 5 steps ahead of me, 3 to 5 steps behind me. So, and I share this before I get into the TEDx stuff because community is so important for your development and your confidence. See, the people that are 3 to 5 steps ahead of me, those are the people that can give me insight in certain areas where I may not have insight, right? Prevent me from going down roads that I don't need to go down that will cost me extra money, waste extra time, etc. The people that are 3 to 5 steps behind me in certain areas, those are the people that I can coach up. And when I do that, they give me fulfillment. It builds my confidence. Okay. So that's why whenever you're joining a membership group, a community, or something like that, you want to make sure that it consists of people that are ahead of you and people that are behind you. And so joining these three entities, through the church, through the purpose group, and also my therapist, it provided me that area or group of people that I can be around to provide that type of community that I'm talking about. In that, I got clarity, right? And that clarity helped to streamline my thoughts and streamline what I needed to do, what I'm passionate about, helped me to find my purpose. And because of that, it helped me to really write what I needed to write from an application standpoint to get accepted onto a TEDx stage. I think in my research, I found that there's a company that did some research and they said it takes an average of 86 applications before you get accepted on a TEDx stage. That's an average, 86.
Wow.
And the process is different for each of them. Yeah. And so I can tell you that this year alone, I sent out probably, I think, 42, 43 applications. Yeah. And I got accepted for two, not just one. So I got accepted for Greenhouse, TEDx Greenhouse, which is here in Houston, Texas, that I'll be speaking at on November the 2nd. And then I got accepted for TEDx Punta Gorda, which is in Florida. And because they were so close together, I couldn't really do both of them. So I had to select one. So I selected the one here in Texas, Greenhouse, and talked to the organizer of Punta Gorda and seeing if I could be a candidate to speak for their spring 2025 session. And so hopefully that goes well.
Yeah.
And yeah, so then I'll end up still getting to do both of them. But it's just amazing for a goal for so long, applying for so many years, and then finally making it on that stage
Yeah.
for TEDx. Yeah.
Yeah.
What am I?
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you. I am. Thank you.
you're welcome.
Yeah, it was a long battle, but I'm there. And it's a grueling process as well. I'm on my fifth edition of writing my speech. I have a TEDx coach that I work with as well. I'm on the fifth edition of my speech. And it's not like doing a corporate keynote speech is what I'm used to. It's a little different or a lot different from that. And so the writing is different. The preparation is kind of different. You have to memorize the entire speech. Whereas in most cases, for me, I organize my speech into bullet points and have highlights that I want to discuss, what I want to talk about, and just go in that particular direction by reading the audience. And in this particular case, no, you have to memorize the whole speech, right? And it's a lot more empirical data, right, versus just anecdotal data. So that is more research that's put into your speech, et cetera.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what is my speech about?
Yeah.
Uh,
Tell us.
yeah. So me being, I would have to say I'm an injustice equalizer, right? I want to see things fair. And, that's how I've always operated all my life. One of the things that really gets at my gut is to see people being led by an unsavory and an unprofessional, disrespectful type of leader. And so I want to teach and send a message out that there's this term that I call magnetic leader. And this magnetic leader, like a magnet, draws people towards them. Because when you think about just a normal leader in a leadership position, some of them, if you take that title away, they're no longer a leader because no one will follow them. But when you are a magnetic leader and you have attracted followers, right? Now you take the title away and that person is still a leader. And there's a process that you go through to become that. All leaders look for influence. One of the gurus of leadership is John C. Maxwell, written I don't know how many books. In fact, I've utilized his book, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, to teach to some of my directors and management folks, right, to help develop them. Well, he has a saying, and that is leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. Every leader acquires influence. They're looking for influence, right? The problem is that you might have it because of just your title, or you might have it because of what I say, your values, right? So this magnetic leader, their foundational pillar sits on their values. And then what sits above that is loyalty. So because of their values, they acquire loyalty. And because of the loyalty, they have influence, right? So it's like this pillar with the value sitting at the bottom. And so my TEDx speech is surrounded around how we have to stop evaluating and selecting our leaders by experience and skill set alone and start looking at their values. Because when we think about the people that we admire the most in our lives, in our past, or whatever the case may be, these leaders, these world leaders, it's not because of their skill sets per se. It's because of their values. And so my speech is centered around that particular theme. I'm trying to get that message out there, that we have to start looking at our leaders and evaluating them based off their their values rather than skill sets and experience.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for sharing. You have been very busy.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Congratulations on all your successes and the profound, amazing work that you're doing. I think the world needs what you're teaching, and I can tell it's authentic and it's from the heart and also experience. Can't believe how many times people have to apply just to get into TEDx.
Yeah, it's a
Wow. Yeah. I did not know that. I thought it
yeah.
was once, maybe twice, and then you're in.
No. It's a little more involved than that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And you said you have a coach.
Yes, I do. I have coaches in several areas. I think that it's really important that we, first of all, have to have a mindset of growth and development. And
Mhm.
that is partially being, self-aware so that we don't succumb to what we call our blind spots. The blind spot is something that the world sees about you that you don't see about yourself.
Mm. Yeah.
And a lot of people fall into that category. And the only way we get through that is we have to have someone that's going to be honest with us, someone that's going to have the knowledge to understand what we're going through and how we're going through it. And then someone that has the tools and techniques to help coach us in that particular area. And that's essentially what I do from a coaching program with individuals that I work with one on one.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that is critical. And so I do have a TEDx coach. I have coaches in this purpose mastery group that I'm a part of. And then I look at my pastor as a coach because every week there's a message that is so profound that touches my soul in a way that no other pastor has ever touched me before. And I'll give you an example. Um, the very first sermon I went to, my wife found the church and she said, "Hey, I think this will be really good. And, I think you would really like this church." And we had gone to several, and I had gone to several over the years, right?
Yeah.
But I never felt really led and pulled like I did with this particular pastor. And he said, the message in that sermon that day was, don't keep going back to what God called you out of. And 3 times I started to go down this road of starting my business in this particular area, helping leaders. And I would get lured back to the corporate world by the title and the money and the position and, everything that comes along with it. And then after being there, sometimes as little as 30 days, I start getting that feeling of like, this is not really fulfilling, you know, because on the outside looking in, we think, oh, we can build a house, we can drive luxury cars, we can travel around the world. While those things are good, they're not what I would consider the ultimate fulfillment. We think that, and that's what the market and the world perpetuates. If you look at social media, it's all about, oh, you got to grind, you got to get this, you want this, you want that, you want to travel the world, you want to fly first class, you want to fly on private jets, you want to drive a Mercedes, a Bentley, a Rolls Royce, and all of these lavish things. At the same time, when you acquire them, the fulfillment doesn't match what it does when you've looked at someone who was broken and you shared your story with them and
Yeah.
you stayed with them and you coached them through that situation
Yeah.
and now they're thriving. That's where true fulfillment comes from. When you take your greatest God-given gift and you utilize it to help others, that's called your purpose, utilizing your purpose.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for me, it's about that now. It's about that.
Mm.
It's about taking my gift and helping others with it.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for sharing. Thank you. Oh, that touches me
Yeah.
because I think that's what I'm doing on the podcast. Um,
Mhm.
Sometimes people ask me for numbers when I don't see it that way because
Uh-huh.
every soul that I speak to teaches me something, and I'm not getting paid for it yet. Is that important? Sure. Um, but I find fulfillment just talking to people like I am right now with you.
Yeah, it's powerful. It
Yeah.
really is. I can't say enough about it. Spending 34, 35 years in the corporate world, um, I've got so many stories of fulfillment that doesn't even touch the goals that I set out to accomplish and accomplish them. But it's the fulfillment of helping people and seeing them progress and grow and learning from them as well is the thing that really really touches me.
Yeah, yeah. How is this speech going? Is it long? And how much do you have to, you said you have to memorize all of it?
Yes, I have to memorize it. At this particular event, the TEDx events, the speeches can range anywhere from I think 6 or 7 minutes on the short end to
Mhm.
18 minutes on the long end. They
Okay.
pride themselves on not having these big long type of speeches. They want people to be able to watch their speeches, get what they need from it from an impactful standpoint, and then move on to the next one. And so at this particular event, TEDx Greenhouse here in Houston, Texas, it's a 10-minute speech. So I'm writing a 10-minute speech that I have to memorize. Well, I've written it, but just
Yeah,
modify it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That's awesome. That's really cool. Um, what are some key tips or ingredients that anyone needs to do public speaking? I'll take some tips because I'm fine doing this with the camera, but as soon as I have to be in front of a crowd,
I
mm-mm.
think we talked about that last time
We
around.
did.
Yeah, I will share this with you, Bernadette. That well, for me, before I give you a few tips, I will just say this. For me, being on stage and talking to an audience, that is like my serene peace and solemn mental state. Connecting with the audience, sharing with the audience, and giving them something impactful that transcends them. You know, not just up there speaking, but really, really talking to them from the heart and getting them to see a particular something that they may have never seen before, right? Or giving them a tool or technique that would help them later on down the line.
Mhm.
As far as tips and techniques for individuals who may not be as comfortable with it, because they say it is one of the largest fears for individuals, you know, to get on stage and speak in front of a bunch of people. First and foremost, I would say repetition. Repetition. You got to put yourself in a situation to do it. You
Mhm.
got to, I don't want to say fail at it, but I will say fall forward, meaning fall and learn.
Mhm.
Okay. I'll give you an example. Last week, I did a district HR speech in Madison, Wisconsin. Different format, totally different format from what I've ever experienced before. You only have 5 minutes for your speech. You have to present 20 slides, and the slides auto advance every 15 seconds.
Wow.
So, yeah, so it is a challenge,
Wow.
but it was fun. It was lots of fun. It was different, but I was totally comfortable on stage, even though it was a challenge. And I will say that there were parts of it where, you know, you always feel like I could have done a little bit better in this area, in that area, or whatever the case may be. But I will say that it was definitely a challenge because it was something that I'd never done before. But now I'm looking forward to doing another one and another one and another one. And this builds that muscle, right? One of the things that I want people to realize with this and that statement that you said, and this goes back to the repetition, right?
Mhm.
Think about the waterfall process. We can see rain, right?
Yeah.
So we know rain comes from the sky, from the clouds. We can see clouds. So we know that they hold moisture, right?
Mhm.
But the third step in that process, we don't see. We don't see evaporation. We don't see water going up. We might see it on the ground and then it disappears, but we don't see it. but we know that it happens.
Yeah.
We know that it happens. Can't see it, but we know it happens. And so I say that because when you're building a muscle, just because you work out one time or just because you put yourself on stage one time, you may not see the progress at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Just like the evaporation period in that waterfall cycle. But if you keep at it, if you have the faith, it exists. You will get better. You will get better at anything that you continue to do over and over and over again. Now, the faster you get better is depicted on and determined by, again, that goes back to your self-awareness. What do I need to do better? What can I learn from this person? What can I learn from that person? And so that I learned a few tips and techniques after the speech last week that would have made me even more comfortable on that stage, right? And so that's the first key, I will say, repetition, okay? The second thing is, I would say that talk about something you're comfortable with. When I was coaching an individual in the corporate world many years ago, uh, I had him in this particular area. I had him get up in front of a group of people, and he got so upset he ran out of the room after maybe 30 seconds. He started speaking, he started stuttering, and he just lost it and just walked out. And when I caught up with him, he was in a male's bathroom in tears. And I said to him, so you have one or two choices. You can get yourself together and go back out there into the training room and finish your speech. Or you can take the rest of the day off, relax, go home, come in tomorrow, and go back into the room with the trainees and finish your speech. Those are the only two options you have. And he chose the latter, to go home, relax, and come back the next day. And he came in the next day, we talked through it, and he went out there and he, fought through it and got through it. To this day, this individual is an executive with the corporation, pretty, substantial position, because now he's totally comfortable in speaking in front of people. And even to this day, every time I see him, we'll get together every now and then because we don't live in the same area. He'll say, man, I'll never forget that time when you told me, man, I was crying like a baby. He said, you told me I had to go back out there and do it. And he said, now look at me today. He said, thank you for that. Forever grateful for that. But that's the benefit of having someone to coach you, right? Which is step number 3. So it's not just, repetition, but it's making sure also that you have someone that can give you insight, and then that second step obviously is, having a mindset of self-awareness where you can receive the development. Yeah. Those are probably the top 3 things I would say for someone that's getting started. Put yourself in a situation, having the right mindset, and then finding someone that can give you feedback on, what you need to do a little different. And then I think I threw a 4th one in there, and that was just finding something comfortable that you can talk about. Because in this case, I did have him talk about something that he was totally comfortable with. So it doesn't have to have anything to do with the company. You can go in and talk about how to fix an engine, right, on a car. Right? But as long as you're comfortable with it, I think that's the key to starting out, right? Talk about something that you know. Because where we get really stumbled on stage is when we are asked or we put ourselves in a position where we have to talk about something we don't know anything about.
Yeah. And I think people like vulnerability. Mm-hmm. Because most of us are capable of showing it, but rarely do we show it because we may think it's a sign of weakness. But when one or more people are able to show that, yes, I can take off my mask, let my guard down, people somehow find that empowering.
It is, it is, because it lets them know that although they're on a platform, on a stage, or whatever the case may be, they're human just like me. And everybody make mistakes. Everybody have setbacks. And everybody, again, I don't want to use the term fail. I will say fall forward. Mm-hmm. Because if you have to fall, fall forward so that you can land from it and you're steps ahead of where you were, when you started whatever that was before you fell. So
Yeah.
yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. What else are you working on?
Oh gosh, the biggest thing that I'm working on besides the TEDx speech is I'm starting a leadership membership group called Opulence, and it's a safe space for leaders to come into, voice what they're going through, their concerns on their job, either with their employees, with their colleagues, with their boss, meeting performance expectations, or whatever the case may be, and gain valuable insight. It's kind of like what I was telling you just a few moments ago, giving them some type of coach that can help them through different situations. And I've been doing this all my career in the corporate world. So now what I'm doing is that I'm expanding that to all types of individuals that are looking for help and insight in those areas. One of the reasons why this is so needed is because when you are in a leadership position, a lot of times you're afraid that you're going to be judged if you ask a question that is in an area where someone expects for you to know it. Or it might be a difficult situation you're dealing with one of your employees and you don't want to go to your boss because you don't want to disclose that information for fear of being judged. It happens. And so what this does is it provides a safe space to ask those type of questions to get help and get insight. I've coached individuals who were dealing with difficult bosses, narcissistic bosses, and helped them to navigate those waters. I've coached individuals on how to get promoted higher up in the chain by understanding their political arena that they're in. And this, of course, is after gathering information from them as well, so that I could best help them develop a plan of action, right?
Mhm.
And so through these particular processes that I've helped so many individuals, it has allowed me the opportunity to have this skill set to help more people. And then, I'll sprinkle in even some life situations in there. I had an employee once who was going through a difficult time with their spouse. And just opened up to me about it in confidence. And, we talked through it. I gave them some tools and techniques to try. But most importantly, like with any effective transformation, I changed his mindset. And that flipped everything on its head. See, because he came in and he said, sometimes I just can't, she just gets on my nerve. I just don't want to hear her voice. I just can't stand it. I can't take it. When I go home, I'm not looking forward to going home. I'm just going to go off if she says one thing. And all I did, Bernadette, was say to him, do you trust me? And he said, of course. We've been working together for a while. I trust you. And I said, okay, I want you to walk with me and I want you to visualize something with me. He said, okay. You're on your way to the hospital in a mode of panic because you don't know what's going on. And you get to the hospital, you get off the elevator that takes you up to the floor, and you say, where is my wife? And you give them the name, and they say, she's in room 213. You run down the hallway corridor until you get to room 213. And you open the door. And you walk in and you see a hospital bed with your wife laying on it. There are tubes coming out of her neck. She was in a car accident that was not her fault.
Mm.
And the doctor tells you, I'm sorry, Mr. Such and Such, and I won't divulge his name. Your wife will never be able to speak again.
Mm.
Is that what you want? Is that what you're sitting here telling me you want? You don't want to hear her voice?
Yeah.
And it's making me emotional because as I think about it,
Hmm.
I remember his facial expression, and I remember his emotions. And that's why this is drawn up, right?
Yeah.
And he wiped his eyes and he just said, wow.
Mm.
He goes home. He comes in the next day. He asks to see me as soon as he gets in. And we go into a conference room. And he just gives me this biggest hug and he just started bawling. And he
Mm.
says, I want to thank you.
Yeah.
I want to thank you.
Yeah.
See, it was changing his mindset. It was getting him to see that his frustration in that moment was not really what he really wanted. So don't ask for that.
Yeah.
Find another way, man. Find another way to communicate. Find another way to relate.
Yeah.
Find another way to solve this particular situation.
Hmm.
And again, it's emotional for me. I'm unapologetically, I'm an emotional person. So,
Yeah.
um, two things I don't play around with: my emotions and my spirituality. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
but I remember the experience, and it makes me emotional just to think about it.
Hmm.
But that's an example of coaching someone in a life skill event. And these are the type of things that are offered when someone works with me.
Hmm. Wow. So powerful.
Yeah.
So powerful. And I think all of us have those scenarios that we can play
Mm-hmm.
to really see, is that what we really want?
Yeah.
I'm constantly playing those, not because it's a negative thing to do. I'm trying to do what you just did to flip the situation.
Well, there's another side. Let me share this with you, Bernadette. And this is, after going through the purpose mastery course, um, spending time listening to my pastor, listening to my therapist, right? So I look at the world different now. I think the first time we met, I was just coming off of dealing with the stuff with my father, right?
Mhm.
And prior to those three things coming together, I didn't look at my father in such of a positive light, and now I do, um, because I had to learn that what he did, although it was not positive, it had a positive impact on my life. Although painful going through it, it had a positive impact on how I see and treat people, other people, right? And so, because of that, it just gave me this whole kind of insightful look at how I see things, right? And so I'm always looking at now, whatever the situation is, there are two sides of it. There's a side that we have a tendency to look at from a negative standpoint, but there's another side that can be a positive. I don't care what it is. We just may not be able to see it at that time, but I will encourage you to think at how this might be positive. You could be running late for something and you could be so upset and get mad and not be so friendly to your family members because of it, because maybe you're late because of one of them. And then, Lord and behold, you get in the car and you're zooming off, and, you know, 5 minutes earlier, there was a huge accident. And had you not have been late, you might be the one in that accident, right? So things like that happen all the time. Especially when we think about things that happen that are like freak accidents. Like, why was this person at this place in this time? Why did this happen to them? Wow, I just missed this. I just missed that. You know, um, a lot of those situations people encounter, but they don't see it until afterwards. That's what's a hindsight is always 2020. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you got 2020 vision with hindsight, but when you're looking at it, try to look at it from there is another side. I don't care how bad it is, there is another side. That's one of the things that I was taught and looking at, not what my father did to me, but what he did for me, right? Because what he did to me is how I looked at it, all like for 56 years. Now I look at it as what he's done for me. That's the other side.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm looking at it the same way with my dad who passed in 2020. Um, yeah.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah. 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 It's just a messed up family I came from. So
Yeah.
I'm so used to dysfunction. It's my normal, unfortunately, but I'm starting to appreciate pain that's being caused by either myself, family members, whoever it is, because it does something to me. It hurts in the moment, but I'm using it. It's like fuel. And
And that's the key.
yeah,
And that's the
yeah,
key. And it's a part of also being able to take that pain that you went through, because now you're on the other side. You're in a direct position to help people who are going through that pain right now,
yeah,
because you are a living witness of someone that is on the other side. It's so hard to accomplish something when no one has ever done it before. But when people see that someone else has done it, it makes it a lot easier. And
yeah,
especially when they're going through a painful situation.
yeah, 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 definitely. Yeah, yeah. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us that you're gonna be doing? You've shared quite a bit, which is amazing.
Yeah, yes. Uh I talked a little bit about the district HR speaking event that I went to last week in Madison, um, Wisconsin.
Hmm.
I am also a part of a committee. We're hosting District HR Houston here in Houston, Texas, in January. January the 23rd is the date. And right now we have a call open for speakers. So we're looking for speakers to speak at our event in Houston, Texas, in January at our district HR event. So we're also looking for sponsors. So for individuals that are looking to, get their name out there. And this, of course, will present networking opportunities with individuals in the HR field, in the corporate arena. Um, these are really, really productive events from that standpoint.
Hmm.
So that's up and coming as well. And I think we'll have the call for speakers to submit their applications open, um, I think until the first or second week of October. So if you're interested in that, yeah, get your information in for
Yeah, that's awesome. Have you ever thought of having maybe programs for baby speakers?
that.
I don't know where I would fit in.
Well, you got to understand. What I will say this: when you're looking for a coach, your best coaches are the ones that have the ability to take you from where you are at that moment to where you want to go. If all you do is group everyone together, then you might have, like you say, baby speakers in there. You might have intermediate speakers. You might have advanced speakers. And if you just start with in one area, then it's not going to be effective. If you start with the babies, then the ones that are advanced, they're not going to be happy. You start with the advanced, and the babies are not going to get anything. They're not going to be happy, right? And so your effective coaches take you from where you are to where you want to go. So no matter where you are in the process, there is someone for you, right? And just make sure that they're able to understand where you are so that they can help take you there. And let me try and articulate that a little better on what it looks like. It looks like finding someone who can coach you in the area of your biggest fear with public speaking. So, for example, if you came to me, Bernadette, and you're like, you know, I want to do public speaking, but I'm just so afraid of it, right?
Mhm.
If I sat down and I started working with you on developing a keynote speech and just getting out on stage, oh, you just need to get out there and do it, then I'm not the coach for you. But
Mhm.
if I were to say to you, okay, let's deal with this fear part of it first. Let's overcome that first. Let's overcome the mental part of stepping onto that stage for the first time, right? And let's take small steps. That might mean something like taking you to an event where you are just on a part of a group of 10 people,
Mm-hmm.
and you got to get up and speak and say something, right? Maybe just introduce yourself, right? And so it's taking those small steps. But the coach has to have the ability to read you so that they understand where you are, so that they can take you to where you want to go. That's how you truly transform someone. And unfortunately, there's a lot of coaches out there in a lot of different areas that have gone through programs and don't really understand that piece of it. And that's where people will invest in coaching programs and they don't really get the result that they're looking for, even though they may have spent thousands of dollars.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. That's really, I don't know why some coaching is so expensive. I don't know.
well,
I just don't
it
know.
is. My coaching isn't inexpensive. I will tell you that. Um, but I will say this, though. I will say this. It's a combination of not paying for what you're getting at that moment in time, but all of the experience that that person may have to help propel you forward,
Mm,
right? And so um, you're not paying for the information for one particular area because we may have to pivot, we may have to go to another area, we may have to go to an area that you may not realize that that's an area that you need to work on because that might have been a blind spot for you, right?
mhm.
And so that's where I would say the coaching is expensive. And then you have to look at the value of what you're getting, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
For example, one of the individuals that I ended up working with and sharing how he could elevate himself in the corporate world is now, making quadruple the salary that he was making when he first came to work with me. And so what I shared with him during that moment while we were working together, if you look at what he's making now,
Mm,
you know, how much is it worth? You're making hundreds of thousands of dollars more now.
yeah.
So how much is that really worth to you? You
Hmm.
know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so somebody might say, $25,000 to coach someone, 15,000, 10,000, 5,000. That's too much, right? But is it really? It's like, okay, so what do you want to get?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And I think it's also to see if coaches are compatible with a person and
Yeah.
to get reference to kind of see what they're doing. That you know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. And I think for me when I do public speaking, yes, there's nerves. I know I'm holding back quite a bit. People said I'm funny. I'm like, okay. But I'm more fearful of offending people. Because
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
well, I will say this. If your heart is set in that area, then usually people that have a heart for awareness in that area, they don't come anywhere near that line of
Hmm.
offending people.
Yeah.
And then what you have to understand also is what is offensive? Because someone that doesn't share the same values as you may find something that you say offensive because
Hmm.
they don't share those same values.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just like the things that happen in society where we see, well, why did this person react that way? Why did they do that?
Hmm.
Over this or over that. Well, they may not have had the same upbringing. They
Hmm.
may not have been raised in the same environment. They may be prone to more violence, right? And if that's their world, you can't say to them that, no, you need to act like this. Now, there might be dire consequences for them
Yeah.
for reacting in the way that they do. We see that all the time.
Hmm.
But at the same time, we're questioning something when there is no universal way other than reading the Bible and understanding that, okay, this is how we're supposed to behave. This is how we're supposed to operate.
Yeah.
And we know today that that just isn't the case,
Hmm.
um,
Hmm.
because we don't see a lot of people loving thy brother and sister and their neighbor. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and I think part of it has to do with confidence and
Uh,
self-growth because if someone's speaking, they care of other people's opinion. They don't have the confidence in themselves. They're not sure of what they're saying, how it makes sense will apply. I think that might be a setback as well.
can be, yes. And that's why I say start off with something that you know.
Hmm.
Uh, I would say this. I would find one particular thing that I'm interested in talking about,
Hmm.
right? And then I would add to it my anecdotal data, right? What I know about it
Hmm.
from, this is what I want to talk about. Then I would go and get some empirical data, do some research on it, see what other people are saying about it, whether they like it, don't like it, or whatever the case may be. And then I would build what I wanted to speak about around that,
Hmm.
right? And the more you know about it, the more comfortable you're going to be having a conversation about it. Because I'm sure if there's something that you are very comfortable in talking about, you could have a conversation with me about it all day.
Hmm.
And on stage, it's the same thing. It's just taking a whole entire audience and lumping it into one person and having a conversation.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah, yeah. Would you look at the time?
I know, right?
1 whole hour just whoop.
Yes. It's always a
Yeah,
pleasure speaking with
yeah,
you.
yeah. So I have two questions for you. Well,
Yeah.
three technically. I think I already asked you one of them. I'm not sure.
Uh-huh.
Anything else you want to share with? What do you want people to get from this episode?
Yeah. I just want to remind them that my leadership group, Opulence, is going to launch a little later this week. So it is up and coming. And the way to get to that is, if you just go to the website, opulenceleader.com. Opulenceleader.com is how you get to the website to join the membership for that. And again, it's a safe space for leaders to vent, to talk about their situations, but most importantly, to get solutions to their and resolutions to their problems and situations.
Yeah, how do you spell opulence and what does it mean?
Ah, great question. Opulence, Opulence. Opulence, just how it's pronounced. Opulence means world class. It means excellence. It means gold standard. It means the top of the echelon. And so when I saw that, it's like, let me put that with the type of leadership that I want to ascertain and share with individuals.
I love that. That's amazing.
So
Yeah.
that's what it's about.
Yeah. Well, for the second time, I'll ask you, which I ask every guest this question.
Uh-huh.
What is the meaning of life for you?
The meaning of life.
Hmm.
The meaning of life for me right now is to seek fulfillment. It's not money. Uh, it's not material. It's fulfillment. And that is taking my purpose, which is my God given ability, and utilizing it to help as many people as I can.
Hmm.
That's the meaning for me.
Wow. I don't know what to say to that, but that's pretty good. Pretty powerful. Wow, wow, wow. Well, thank you, Rodney, for coming back on the podcast for the second time. You're always welcome to come back anytime. Thank you for
Thank
all you
you.
do.
Thank you. And I will say this, anyone that wants to be a part of my magnetic leadership community,
Hmm.
all you have to do is text the word magnet, MAGNET, to 55444. Type the word magnet, MAGNET, to 55444, and you'll become a part of my network.
Wow, that's awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much, Rodney.
Thank you.
You're
And I really
welcome.
appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you.